Now, there always has to be a story. So a couple of weeks ago, apparently I thought I was much younger than I am, and I decided to carry a table that was about this long from my kitchen into my bedroom to put it in the closet. I had to stop 3 times, and apparently what I did is, I never heard of these, but there's something called the intercostal muscles, or coastal, I don't know what they're called, right here by your ribs. I managed to pull them on both sides. So, all that to be said, to say thank you to Dan Locken, who became my assistant on Friday and packed everything up for me, because as of Friday I couldn't do even that much. So, thank you, and thank you to Tony, who carried everything in for me today, and to Andy, who's going to be taking them home for me today. So that also is an excuse for the lack of research that I did, because if anybody knows me, I kind of tend to wait till the last minute, because I think I have plenty of time. So some of this stuff I know, some I don't. If you have questions or comments, and you need to jot them down, we'll talk about it at the end. Also, thanks to Max, who cleared up whether something was Duncan and Miller or Fenton for me. So I'm going to start with the shoes. And as I told you, there's always a story. So this is obviously not American. This is an Italian shoe. At Rochester, the very first time I went to Rochester, I was living in Iowa. And there was a man who maybe was in his 80s who had an outside booth, and he had beautiful glass. And one of the pieces that he had was the Fenton lemonade tumble up that was signed. And I just thought that was the be all and end all. Well, he and I stood and chatted for a while, and then the next time I went to Rochester, I looked for him, didn't see him. Looked for him, didn't see him, and I thought, well, he's probably passed away, or he's too old to come and do it by himself. The last time we were in Rochester, inside the building, was a display that kind of reminded me of this man. So I asked the guy who was behind the booth, I said, did your father used to sell here? And he said, yeah. So it was stuff that was left from this man who had passed away. So I had to buy something, and of course I love this shoe, and it's the Millefiori, or the Venetian glass. I have no idea what it's worth, and I'm sure I paid way more than I should. So before I go through all of this, one of the things that we used to do occasionally was an education piece. And so when I was looking a little bit in my basket book, my Fenton basket book, I thought, just as a reminder, if you don't know, I would tell you what chemicals are added to the basic sand, soda ash, and lime used to make glass for Fenton colors. So just a small amount mixed with the main ingredient, and then that determines the special colors. So milk glass is alumina and fluorine. Both cobalt and copper, not together, will result in blue. If you add gold to it, you can get either cranberry or rosaline. Gold and uranium together is Burmese. Chromium is green. Iron also will give you green. Iron, and I thought this one was really interesting. Iron and table sugar gives you amber. Something called erbium, which I don't know what that is, gives you pink. And then something called nidmium is also pink. Manganese is black. Selenium and cadmium, ruby and orange. Selenium and manganese is crystal, and uranium is topaz. So just a little piece of information. The other thing I learned when I was doing this was, when I started looking at some of my shoes, and the daisy and button pattern, I guess I always just assumed all of them were Fenton. Now, all of these may be Fenton, because I didn't take the time to really figure out which was which, but I found out in the little shoe book, which we have in our library, I found that Duncan and Miller actually made a bunch of the daisy and button shoes and boots. And so that was news to me. I guess I buy what I like, and I don't do a lot of research, but finding out that some of these could have been Duncan and Miller and not Fenton was kind of a surprise to me. And one of the things that Duncan and Miller makes are what they call the baby booties. A number of companies made these. I put toothpicks in because this little book said that some of them were made as toothpick holders. And they have they're open on the bottom. The Fenton ones have a narrower inside than some of the other ones. There were actually, in the book, if I can find it, there were 39 different companies that made the shoes. And many of them were made in the Victorian era. So the one I have the most pieces of are what's called the kitten slippers or kitten shoes. They call them kitten slippers, actually. And I couldn't tell you who made what. I suspect this one was made for the 95th anniversary of Fenton, and it's the violets in the snow. Otherwise, that's the only one I have that isn't typical. Some are daisy and button, and then a couple of them are hobnail. So whenever I see them for what I think is a good price, I buy them, and then sometimes I find out I already have them. So, I know I'm not the only one who does that. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 of the kitten ones. Then I have a couple of what they call the bow slippers. This was the other thing I learned, is that not necessarily in these, but in this one, I think, the darker green is a reproduction, and the avocado is the original. So they have just a tiny little bow that's cut in up here. And then I've got the bigger one and then the smaller one. And all along, I apologize if there's dust. All along I thought this was ruby, and when I was packing it up, I realized it's actually amethyst. Let's see. This is just an amberina, and again, it's the daisy and button. That seemed to be a big, I don't know what this is, I just thought it was cute. It's a little pink, I would say a little pink cowboy boot. This one also is marked 95th anniversary for Fenton. I think both of these might have been made for QVC. And you guys might know, I don't know. In looking in some of my Fenton books, I saw some, not these boots, but similar patterns that were made for QVC. And then I have this little Christmas one. We were talking earlier, somebody said, do you know where you got all these? I'm like, please. I have no idea where I got any of them. This is just like a little miniature, I mean they're little anyway, but a little miniature, again, amberina. I really like this one, this carnival glass one. And I think this was from the 70s. The companies that seem to make, the modern companies that made most of these were Boyd and Degenhardt. And again, don't ask me what's what. These two are Boyd, and if anyone knows what these are, they've got like little toe, I thought they were baby booties. They're open on the bottom, and they've got like little toes sticking out. So I thought they were maybe some kind of sandal, but I don't know what kind of little baby booties would have open toes on the little boots. So these two I think are newer. This Amberina one I think is older. This one I bought when we were on the trip to Amana. Oh, I missed this one is another one with the bow. I have one roller skate. I think it's a reproduction. This book was from the 80s. She wrote this book in the 80s, and I think it's her collection. She doesn't say anything about a roller skate coming in pink. So I'm guessing it's either very, very new or it's a reproduction of some kind. I don't know if this seems like the original top to this. I got this at Retro Revolution in Madison. My gut says it was either booze or perfume. There are several in the book like this. It's got a little high heel on it. There were several in the book like this, and they were either for perfume or for booze. These are, there was a name for these. I just wrote down boots on bases. When I first got these, if you can look at it from the side, maybe it was just me, I thought they were ice skates. And I always called them my ice skates. Well, looking in this book, what they actually were for little tiny bouquets. So like a little nosegay or something that you would put in here, and some of the older ones actually had floral something on the side. So I have 5 of those. So if you are, let's see if I missed anything I wanted to tell you about. I guess not. But if you're interested and really want to do some research, we do have this. What's nice, if you're a real researcher, you can go from the plate to the page and it'll give you a lot of detail about that. I'm not, but it's got a lot of colored pictures of all the different shoes, booties, and again, a lot of them came from the late 1800s. That was when that became really popular, and they used an actual shoe last to design them. Okay, hats. So the story is, I told this table earlier, I have a tendency, just like with glass, to just buy a piece of jewelry that I think I can't live without. This sat in my drawer for 3 years with the price tag on it, and I remembered this morning, I thought, don't I have a necklace that has a hat on it? So the lesson I took from that is, don't buy something if you're not gonna wear it right away. All right, no, I wanna do this. I bought this at Nell's estate sale. I have a lot of the ruby opalescent coin dot or cranberry. As soon as I walked in the door, I made a beeline for this. It's kind of like I had to have it. Besides the fact it's a hat, it's something I collect, it belonged to Mel's estate, so it has special meaning to me. You're probably saying, why does she have baskets mixed in with the hats? Can you see? The hats were the base they used, that Fenton used to make a lot of baskets. So they just took the hat, they had the different designers that put on the handles and put the designed handle on them. So that's why we have the hats. Another little one. I have no idea who made these. It had to be the same, I'm thinking it's the same company. Again, it's a color that I like, so I grabbed them because of the color. This is rainbow glass, and it is the only, I started collecting crackle. It is the only piece, I don't know if you can really see it. It's the only piece of, I'll pass it around. You almost need to hold it up against the light, and I apologize if it's dirty. It's the only piece of crackle that I have that's a hat. This is Fostoria American. At first I wasn't sure. I thought, would Fostoria really have made a hat? They made 2 different size hats, so this is one of them. This is the other one I have that's mid-century. It is Bischoff glass, and it's called a pinched glass vase, and pinched hat vase. Again, I don't know all this stuff, but for people who collect mid-century, apparently this guy was a big deal, designed by a guy by the name of Wayne Husted. And I also have one in amethyst, but the one in amethyst is a little cloudy. Probably from the 60s. Again, the Fenton coin deck, the forest green Fenton, the snow crest. Kind of on the front. Oh, and also a thank you to Dan who brought these to me today as a little present. So they're also Daisy and Button. Here's another little basket that you can see was actually a hat. This one I thought was kind of fun. It's an ashtray. I don't know if you can see the little place for the cigarette on the side. Jadeite. This is what I was saying earlier. I didn't know if, because this one, the hobnails are a little sharper than this one, but I'm taking Max's word, and we think they're both Duncan and Miller. I wondered if maybe one was Duncan and Miller and one was Fenton. This was the one I thought was Duncan and Miller, and maybe this was Fenton, but I think they're both Duncan and Miller. Max is much smarter than I am. Another Daisy and Button hat. I think this is called Spiral by Fenton, but I'm not sure. Ann, can you see it? Yep. Is that what it's called? Spiral. What?
Spiral Optic.
Spiral Optic by Fenton. Another Daisy and Button and amethyst. I have no idea. I just thought it was kind of fun. It's got hobnails. It may be new. I have no idea who would have made it. This one just has like little threading around the base of it. And again, hat. So, what kind of questions can I answer?